Welcome back to Rewind of the Living Dead. I'm Damon Martin.
And I'm Patrick Guerra.
And Patrick, tonight we are diving back into a franchise that we have openly admitted we are not. I'm not saying we're not fans of it, more of just like we just never really were interested in it as much. And we have reviewed a couple of the movies. We are getting back into the Insidious franchise in the first. They've done other films without Patrick Wilson and that family, but after that story, the Lambert story, kind of closed with Insidious. The Red Door, was that the name of that one?
Yeah, Behind the Red Door or something like that.
And now we're digging into a new one, which I'll be honest, when I saw, I was like, I don't know. But tonight, yes, Patrick, we were talking about Insidious: Out of the Further.
Damon, Insidious Out of the Further, released in August of 2026, starring the likes of Brandon Perea as Nick Mendoza, Maisie Richardson Sellers as Claire, Sam Spruell as Cyrus, and Lynn Shay as Elise Rainier, with Island Austin playing Maya and starring Amelia Eve as Gemma Hall. Written by Jacob Chase, with a story by David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, and of course based on characters by Lee Whannell. Directed by by Jacob Chase. Insidious Out of the Further. Gemma, a young mother raising her daughter in the house she grew up in, discovers she can travel into the further, where she possesses an ability to bring what lives there back to the real world. Oh my God, Damon. It's getting so real because we have to talk about Insidious yet again, the franchise that won't go away. And yeah, Damon is right. This isn't our favorite franchise ever. The original Insidious is still a very, very much a core memory for me from 2000s horror. A bunch of my friends had seen it and they were like, dude, you have to see this movie. It is like one of the scariest movies ever. We all went back to the theater. They had already seen it. I decided to see it again with them. And the first half of the movie, I was like, damn, this is pretty fucking cool, pretty spooky and scary. And then the second half of the movie really turned into something that I just did not give a damn about. And ever since then, that's kind of how I felt about Insidious. It's just not kind of for me. You know what it really reminded me of, and even it reminded me of here watching this. It's very like Haunted Mansion kind of vibes, or like even like a haunted house attraction where like you go, okay, it's fall, we're gonna go to a haunted house. It kind of gives off those vibes, and for some people, that's like a spooky comfort blanket, and they just love stuff like that. It does nothing for me. It doesn't excite me. I've never been a big haunted house guy. They'd have to go really hardcore, and a lot of the regular ones don't. I don't live out where there's like proper extreme haunted houses that are really insane. And I don't want to sign a waiver because somebody's going to shave my head or hang me upside down by my feet or some shit. So yeah, I like, it just gives off those vibes, and the scares and the style of scares and the concept of the ghouls in the further. None of that really does anything for me. And I was sure it wasn't going to do anything for me this time. And for, I would say, a good hour, maybe 45 minutes of this movie, it wasn't doing anything for me. And then that last 45 minutes kicks in, and I realized, Damon, that I was watching my favorite Insidious movie. That's not a huge compliment, considering I don't love the franchise, but the way this movie pays off, I'm happy to tell you, what makes it my favorite Insidious movie, period.
So if you remember, you go back, we did Insidious: The Red Door, Behind the Red Door, whatever it was called. And we knew it was going to be a pretty popular horror film, so we had to review it. So we decided to do the first Insidious first. And if you remember, I had never seen it. I just had never
Right.
seen that movie. Not because I didn't want to or I didn't like it. I just had never seen it. And there's a lot I appreciated about that movie. Now, I've openly said Patrick Wilson's one of my favorite actors. I love that dude. I mean, I've watched interviews with him. He just seems like a good dude. You know what I mean? On top of being like
Yeah.
a really good actor, which, like it or not, that makes a difference. And so I was like, all right. And that one big jump scare, and it says everyone talks about being like the greatest jump scare of all time. I get it. I'm not saying it got me the way it gets everyone else, but I was like, I get it. And what I appreciate about Insidious, two things I really appreciate about Insidious, the franchise as a whole. One, and this is just a pet peeve, and you know this, I don't like haunted house stories. I just don't. Because I've said it so many times, you can recite it for me, Patrick. Why don't I like haunted house stories?
Because you could just get the fuck out of the house.
Exactly. And the reason I liked Insidious is because they solved that. The ghouls, the demons, they're not following the house, they're following the person.
Right.
Kind of like Paranormal Activity, which, funny enough, the guys who made Paranormal Activity were like the executive producers of the Insidious franchise. I was like, you're making it so these people can't escape the demons. The demons are not, they don't give a fuck about the house. They care about the people. I was like,
Right.
cool. That, like, at least you're giving me a reason. Like, you can't just leave the house and it's over. So I was like, that I appreciate the story part of it. But also, B, what I do appreciate about Insidious, and every Insidious movie is this, is they're all rated PG 13.
Hmm.
And I'll say this, like, there's definitely some really, like, pretty good scares in these movies, like good jump scares, enough gore to get you. And I'm like, this is good entry level horror. Now, you
Yes.
and I are so completely fucked up in our heads that, like, Martyrs is entry level horror for us at this point.
Yeah, it's
But
about where I stand.
But I appreciate movies like Insidious that they exist, because if you are just not a big horror fan and you're looking for movies to kind of get you into horror, but you don't want to go, full martyrs, you can watch an Insidious. And they're not poorly made movies. They're not poorly written movies. They're not poorly acted movies. Like, they're well done. Like, they're pretty well done movies. But they are, like, they're PG 13. And they do a good job. Like I talked about when we did the Ring review. I was like, I forgot that was PG 13. Like, I thought that movie went so hard. I was like, there's no way. It was PG 13.
Hmm.
So, in that way, even if I don't love this franchise, I love what it represents. It gets people who are not hardcore horror fans into horror.
It
And
is
so, that,
casual horror. Yeah.
yeah. And that I appreciate. Like, even if I'm not the biggest fan, I don't really care, because the person who's like, I just don't like horror, I can't, I get too scared, whatever. Watch Insidious. You're going to be scared, but they're not going to go so hard that you're going to walk out of the theater vomiting, or like, like, what did I just watch? Or, oh my God, I can't believe they made this. So I appreciate what Insidious represents. Now, when I heard about Insidious Out of the Further, my first thought was, who the fuck's going to be in this movie? Because they wrapped up the story with Patrick Wilson. And I know at that point, much like the Conjuring universe, Patrick Wilson's like, I'm done. I'm walking away. This is my last one.
Yeah.
But just like Conjuring, we knew there was no way they were going to walk away from that franchise, especially when the last one made like $500 million or whatever. So they just replaced the cast. Now they're doing a prequel. Anyways, I was like, there's no way they're going to walk away from Insidious. But I was curious because Elise, played by the great Lynn Shay, sorry for spoilers here. I mean, this is like the sixth film in the franchise or whatever, but she dies in the original Insidious. And the reason they brought her back in the other ones was, one, she became a spirit, and then they did like a prequel with two films with her being the star as the prequels, which is fine, because everyone really liked that character. So when this one came out, I knew it was set in modern times. I was like, how the fuck are they going to do this again? And they obviously, Patrick Wilson, and they were not coming back. I was like, all right, well, let's see where they go. So that was my first thought. Like, who is this? What's this going to be about? Who's it going to be about? Because they wrapped up the other story. I'm kind of like you, Patrick. Like, I sat down. Absolutely, I didn't judge the movie ahead of time. I just know enough about Insidious and the past films to be like, it's going to be okay. That was like the high bar to clear. It was like, it's going to be okay. And I'm here to tell you, Patrick, like, when it was over, I was like, this was pretty good. Like, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's like the best horror film of the year, or, top 5 horror film of the year, maybe top 5 surprise horror film of the year, because I went in thinking, if this is just middle of the road and doesn't make me want to throw something at the screen when it's over, that I'm pissed off I watched this movie, that's a win.
That's a low
What?
bar, but
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 when
no, I
this
know.
movie,
Yeah, go
but when the
ahead.
movie was over, I was like, you know what? That wasn't bad. Pretty good. I enjoyed myself. I actually enjoyed. Pretty good story. We'll get into all that, all the details. Acting was solid. The story, the actual story, how we get into like the actual version of the story was interesting. They found a way back in, and I was like, because my biggest fear was they're just going to repeat the other movies. They're just going to do it with a new family. That was my
Right.
biggest fear. Is like they're going to replace the Lambert family with this new family, and it's going to be the same story over again. They didn't do that. Again, I'm not sitting here saying it's a masterpiece, but it was pretty good.
The difference here is the story, and I think like the other movies. And I know they have stories with like accomplished storytellers telling them. I'm just saying that those stories never did anything for me. They were just haunted house movies told from this angle, right? And then you get to go into the further, and that's kind of part of it. And then you get the lipstick monster or whatever they call him. I forgot his name. But a lot of that just it just wasn't doing anything for me. I was just and I think it was because I didn't think there was anything new going on in those stories. It was just another version of Haunted House. Insidious Out of the Further is a new way of telling this story. That's the exciting part about it. It's kind of hard not to kind of hard to get into it pre-spoilers, so I'm not gonna say much here. But the character of Gemma is going through it, and there's reasons she's going through it, and you're like, okay, okay, yep, this is kind of feeling like every other Insidious, until you realize that there's something very different about her that makes her different in this space, and it changes how the story functions. And then it becomes a whole different type of movie, still a horror movie, but again, horror movies can take on any genre that you want. And it took on a genre that I was like, if Damon doesn't like this, we're going to have a discussion because I know he likes this kind of genre. So I want to see how he feels about it. And sure enough, the great Damon Martin goes, you know what? Not bad. You know what? For Insidious, I like this. You know what? I've hated movies more. These are all sort of backhanded compliments. But if you come out of a movie enjoying it, and especially this movie lands very well, like it
Yeah.
ends in the right place. That is a successful night at the movies. It's much worse when it doesn't land great. When it's like, oh, I kind of had fun. I thought it was all right. It did some interesting stuff, and then it really lost me at the end. That would be a bummer. Instead, it was just like it kept kind of building towards this thing, and then it threw a little big, not a little twist, a big twist at us. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. How's that going to play out? And then it plays out pretty damn good. And then it lands in a good spot. And I was like, oh, shit, that's all I'm asking for. They don't all have to be Hereditary. They don't all have to be Bone Temple. They don't all have to be The Substance. But what did I get was like it was a good setup and payoff is what I got.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't need these films to be genius. I don't need them to be like, totally original and oh my god, I've never seen anything like this before. Like we talked about, Obsession, or even like a film I didn't like, Backrooms. You liked Backrooms, I didn't, but I understood the originality of it. So I don't need it to be that. But yeah, like like the idea of Insidious is pretty well documented. It's there's a the world between worlds called the Further, and that's where like condemned souls go to live, and they kind of attach themselves to a human person, and they like basically torture them for fun or for whatever, for shits and giggles, whatever the case may be. And that's what happened to the Lambert family, to the story revolving around Patrick Wilson's family. And this one, like I said, this one veers off into a different idea. You're still dealing with the Further. You're still dealing with Elise being like, the ghost whisperer, or like, the person who knows the most about this world and this, whatever's going on. But why it's happening. And I mean, they say it we said in the synopsis, and we might as well talk about it here. I mean, it's in the trailer. The difference with Gemma, and like I said, it's in the synopsis we've read twice now. She has the ability to pull things out of the Further. So these are condemned souls stuck in like, a hellish landscape, so to speak. They rule over this landscape called the Further, but they don't want to be in the Further. They want to be in the real world again. And Gemma and her lineage, her mother, her family, has the ability to pull these things out into the real world. So that right away, I was like, okay, I'm not saying you got me, but it's interesting because it's not just, oh, there's another tortured soul going after another person. You know what I mean? Like I said, that was my biggest fear. It's just going to be rinse and repeat of the other stories. Just now it's going to center around Amelia Eve's character and her daughter or whatever else. And we're just going to repeat the same movie over again. And they're going to try to get us some new scares and whatever. But this one's actually like, there's a purpose to this, which is the condemned, tortured souls want out of the Further. And they now have a conduit to do that, which is Gemma. Again, I'm not saying it's genius. I'm not sitting there saying like, "Oh my god, what a completely original idea." Oh my, but it wasn't just another repeat of the other movies. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like, okay, we're gonna go through this whole ordeal again, except now it's a woman or a single mom.
Yeah, they
And
complicated the idea.
they complicated the idea, and they also give you some new characters. Obviously, new ghouls, new ghosts. You know what I mean? It's not the same. Like the lipstick face demon, I think is what they called it. Like that
Yeah.
became like the big bad of the original Insidious movies, which is fine. It was a creepy thing, but they're giving you a new demon, new pathways into this new storyline, And I'll tell you what, I think what I comment most about this movie, and we'll really get into the details and spoilers, some of the originality with these scares, like the creepiness of it, they did a damn good job with that. Like there's some really like moments where I'm just like, oh. Now I think everyone knows, like even from if you saw one trailer, like there's a very tied in story or a very tied in like scare developed through our lead character Jim is a dentist, and I don't know a single person on earth who's like, oh, I can't wait to go to the dentist. That there's some moments in those scenes, even by the way, not even meant to be scary, just like general, like her just
Yeah.
working at work, and I'm like, nope, 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 no more of this. Please get away, please get away. Listen, we talk about like generic jump scares, and I've said on this show a million times, some of my favorite scares are the ones I see coming, because if you pull it off, even though I see it coming, it works. There's a reason it works. It's just when you don't do it right. Jacob Chase and the team that did this movie, they did a really solid job of like extreme close ups. I call it body horror. I don't really know a better way to say it, but like
Gross out horror. Yeah.
gross, yeah. But they did it. They pulled it off in a way that actually works. Because there's a million, like I said, everyone always remembers that scene from Final Destination. I can't remember what number it is, where the girl's in the dentist chair, and they always remember that
Yes.
scene because it's pride and proven that it works. So like people are like, fuck this, I don't want to be here anymore. They do a great job of that, and they're inventive in the way they do it. So I was like, yeah, like they did a really good job with that, with the scares, and they interlaced it really, really well with the story. It wasn't overly long. I think the movie's like an hour and 40 minutes, which is not bad. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like not bad at all. Performances were solid. So yeah, like I said, big compliment for a movie that I went in, and I hate saying this, but some movies, I don't care how you quantify it. Some movies you go in and you just have a natural bias. Well, you know what I mean? Like when I sat down for that AMC screaming scene and it said Eli Ross Ice Cream Man, I was like, oh fuck. Like I just had a feeling. I had a feeling. Now, granted, I was absolutely right about that feeling, but I had a feeling. This time when it came on, when I went in with like a preconceived notion of like this is probably going to be okay at best. Like that was the high bar to clear, and like I said, they did impress me.
The dentistry stuff in this, the gross out in this, is a great way around PG-13
Yeah.
because it's not bloody, it's not showing mangled like bodies or anything like that. It's just getting in really close on teeth while they're being worked on with like drills and hooks and shit like that. And there's no blood, but it's gross and it's very up close. They got really creative with how they shot that stuff. And so it allows for it to just be really disgusting and it works. And then there's the other factor, which we will get into a little bit deeper in spoilers. There's almost like a Nightmare on Elm Street element to this movie because, as you know, with Nightmare on Elm Street movies, you can pull between the dream world and the real world if you know what you're doing. There's nothing new there. And that's what Gemma's got going on here. She can pull things from the further into the real world, vice versa. So there is a little bit of an element of like, am I asleep? Am I awake? Am I in the further? Am I in reality? And everybody loves that. That's, by the way, it's probably why the Smile movies do really well. Everybody's like, oh, we love Smile. We love Smile. And then other people were like, well, I feel like I've seen that movie before. You have, because the premise is you don't know when it's actually happening until it's too late. That's very much what's going on in this movie. So that creates all those thrills and chills that you're looking for. That's all, it's all built into this idea. And on top of that, it has a story that while Damon, it started out for me almost like nauseatingly frustrating, landed in a great place because it was raising a lot of questions. There was a lot of weird choices made, a lot of weird ways to paint characters, and then it all made sense. And I was really kind of tracking that and going, how is this going to make sense? How is that going to make sense? And then it does, and that's really satisfying. I'm seeing that more and more with a lot of movies where they understand if they put something in there, it has to pay off in some way, shape, or form. You hear that, Eli Roth? I'm not inventing that, okay? And you've been doing movies a lot longer than I've been doing a podcast. When you set something up, it probably should pay off. Just a hint there. Insidious Out of the Further does that.
And to their credit, like I was watching a couple of interviews tonight because our buddy Chuck, your movie guy, He did an interview with James Wan and Jacob Chase, and I was watching the interview. And Jacob Chase was sitting there, and he was like, obviously paying homage to James Wan, who created the Insidious universe. Like, it's his creation. And Jacob was like, I was such a huge fan of these movies. I was a huge fan of these movies, and I was just dreaming that I could do something like this. And he made a movie, and he did it. Sometimes, like, there's nothing wrong with being a fan of a franchise and wanting to make a movie, because I think Jacob, this is just my guess while watching the interview, but I'm guessing like he held this in like a real reverence. Like, he cared about this franchise. He loved this franchise. Now that can backfire on you too. You can not see the famous you're not seeing the forest for the trees kind of thing, where you just lose sight of what actually makes a good movie versus making a fan service story, which is the worst thing that can happen. We've seen it happen in superhero movies over and over again, where we're just like, we're just gonna make a fan service movie, and it's a really bad idea.
Yeah.
But when you get a good script and you get somebody who actually cares, like, this isn't like he just like, they didn't seek him out and say, hey, would you like to take this Insidious job? He wanted it, and he had an idea, and he had an original idea. And I think that made a big difference in this movie. Like I said, I'm saying it can absolutely backfire. We've seen the other version of this where it absolutely backfires, where guys are like way too obsessed with it and they make a really bad movie. But I think Jacob's reverence and care for this Insidious franchise made him make a better movie. Like, I think he came up with a truly original idea. And I'm with you. Like, the first half of the movie is just like, can we get to where we're going here? What are we doing? Yeah, there's a couple scares in there and things like that. But once the movie really gets going, it's like, okay, like, the engine's moving here, and I'm on board. But I think that fandom that he had and that reverence for this franchise, I think, made a better movie, because he cared. He's like, I want to make a really good version of this, but I got to do it different. I can't just make another Lambert story. And as I said, that was my biggest fear with this. They're just going to rehash the other movies and just do it with a different family, which we've seen a million horror films do that before. And the only way you can really, truly pull that off, to your credit, Patrick, to your franchise, is when you make Jason find new ways to kill people in Friday the 13th, because I was just watching Friday the 13th Part 4 the other night, and I love that one. And, like, it's really not reinventing the wheel, but they got some awesome kills in there and, like, really cool things for Jason to do. That's really it, though. You have to find a way to, like, keep people interested. And even then, by the way, like, eventually, like, let's go to Manhattan. All right, we're done.
Let's go to space. Let's go to hell. You're like, okay, stretching thin here.
It's over. Yeah, let's go and put the nail in the coffin here, boys. It's over. But I think that made a difference. And maybe you would take it differently, but I think, like, his fandom made him care enough to make a good movie. Like I said, it can absolutely backfire. If I give me a half hour, I'll think all the examples of times it has backfired. But I think this is one of those times where, like, they're like, you know what? I cared enough to make an original story, and I wanted to pay homage to one of my favorite horror franchises, and I loved what James Wan started with. I just want to take the ball and run with it. And I think he did a pretty good job at that.
I'm glad he did. I'm glad a fan got a hold of this one, because I think somebody who just had an assignment wouldn't do the same kind of work. And it showed. It showed. In my opinion, genuinely, before we get into spoilers here, this is my favorite Insidious movie. Again, not saying a lot. It's not, I'm not telling you it's a great movie. Because some of you are like, oh, better than the original Insidious. And I'm over here going, yeah, I think the original Insidious is like, okay. And I think it falls off a cliff at one point. That's my opinion. So don't take it like I'm saying it's better than the original Insidious if you just think the original Insidious is an awesome horror movie. I don't think it's an awesome horror movie. I just think it's okay at best. So I thought this was better than okay.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know where I'd rank it necessarily, because I haven't watched these movies enough to care to rank them. I know it sounds terrible,
Yeah.
but like, but it was, like I said, I enjoyed it, and definitely more than I thought I would. Patrick, let's get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen Insidious Out of the Further, it is in theaters right now. Go check it out. It is a good theater experience. I will say, I went to like a 10:30 show. My theater was pretty packed, and there are definitely some people jumping, and I heard a lot of gasps. So, like, it is a good, I love a theater experience with a good horror movie. And these movies are filled with jump scares, so, like, you're going to get a lot of people going, and freaking out. Do a good job with that. So, yeah, go see it in the theater. Also, if you want early access to this episode or any episode we do, make sure to check out patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. $5 a month, support your boys. Early access to new episodes. We also have bonus episodes. We put up a review of the great horror film, or horror thriller, I guess you could call it, The Kill List. If If you haven't seen
Yes.
that one, watch it and listen to our review. That is a holy shit movie. Trust me, you need to see that. We're going to be doing more of those. Deep cuts is what we're calling it, where we're going to do movies that our patrons suggest and we get into that maybe wouldn't fit on the regular podcast. We do it for the special podcast for Patreon. We also do TV reviews in there. We did Alien Earth. We did It Welcome to Derry. We're going to be doing It Welcome to Derry Season 2. Now that's been renewed. Alien Earth Season 2 as well. So stay tuned for that. Patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. So Patrick, let's get into spoilers. Do you want to just like run through the plot real quick, like what we're actually dealing with here?
Yeah, the basic plot is you start out in 1999 with young Gemma, and she's living in this big house with her mom, and her mom doesn't look well. Let's put it that way. And there's sort of an implication that maybe her mom is like on drugs or something. She's coming home, she's making herself her own food, she's taking care of herself, or her mom just kind of sleeps on the kitchen table, and you're like, oh, what the fuck's going on here? Mom seems really out of sorts, and then one night she goes absolutely nuts, freaks out young Gemma. Uh, yeah, she chases her up to the bathroom upstairs, and mom takes herself out. It's very sad. And you're like, oh my God. And in that moment, you get a sense as the audience member, like, oh, she's not just like drugged out. There's something going on. She seems possessed. Okay, makes sense. Cut to 25 years later. Now Gemma's a grown woman. She's got her own daughter named Maya. They live in that exact same house. And Gemma is, she's getting by. I would say there are these little hints as to what she's holding on to in terms of trauma. She's a hoarder. She doesn't like to throw anything away. She kind of refuses to. And Maya was talking about, hey, mom, I want to kind of get rid of some of my toys. And she's like, really? Okay, we will. And then she just moves them over to the garage, where the garage is completely full of everything that the house has ever had because she can't get rid of it. She's really holding on to the past. And it kind of makes sense. And you go, yeah, okay, she was traumatized when she saw her mom die when she was just a little kid. And so she holds on to everything. That's her malfunction in that respect. But then she starts getting these weird visions, dreams. She can't quite understand what it is that she's seeing. And there are some weird people in the neighborhood, some freaky looking people, older folks. By the way, one of them, Joseph Lopez, a buddy of mine who was in my short film, Don't Do It. So it's always cool to see Joe in a movie. I'm like, hey, there's Joe. He plays one of these creepy looking people that is just kind of stalking them around. And she is like, something is off, something is wrong. And now she's starting to seem a lot like her mom seemed when we first met her. Her boyfriend, played by Brandon Perea, is a cop, and he's just like, yeah, I think you need to get help because of what happened. You never really got around all that stuff. And Gemma's very stubborn. She's just like, I don't need help. I just need to like hoard more stuff. Is basically what her answer is. And it was sort of frustrating. That was the part of the movie that was sort of frustrating, where I was like, she's really digging her heels in, but also not trying to make a better life at all. So it was kind of weird and contradictory. Like at one point she says something, she goes, I'm trying to build the house that I never got to live in. And I'm like, no, you're literally living in the house that you lived in. So I don't know what you're
Yeah.
talking about there. I understand she's trying to make like a better life for Maya, but she's also failing at that pretty quickly, pretty rapidly because of these visions and what they are. And then she discovers, Damon, that she's not just any old person having bad dreams and having sort of a trauma response. She is indeed one of these. Did they have a name for it? What she can do?
So eventually she does run into Elise, and she says she's drifting into the further, and she's like obviously very confused what's going on, why there's these weird creepy things like kind of stalking her. She thinks it's all dreams. Obviously she's actually dipping into the further. And Elise eventually went, which is, by the way, I actually really give credit to Jacob Chase for this one. Elise doesn't show up at the beginning. She only shows up about midway through the movie. Like, like
Yeah.
at this point, Jim has been in the further like 3 times. And finally, on like the 4th time, she's really getting stalked through there, and she's like freaking out. And then boom, the demons back off, and out of nowhere there's Elise. Like, she's here. Like, oh shit. But she calls it a courier, is what she calls her. She calls her a
That's right.
courier. Yeah.
Yeah, so Gemma's like, or excuse me, Elise is like, you're a courier. She has to go to this tattoo artist named Claire. I can't remember. Oh yeah, because Elise tells her go to this address, and then she comes back out of the further, and she has the address with her in this old book and stuff. She goes to Claire. Claire's like, oh yeah, Elise, yeah, she speaks through me and all that
Yeah.
stuff. They do a process, and then she gets in there and she's able to actually properly talk to Elise, and Elise lays it all out for her. She's like, you are different. You're a courier. You're somebody who can pull things from the further into the real world. Ergo, something wants to use you, and we have to make sure that doesn't happen. And so it kind of confirms a lot of things for Gemma. She's like, oh, fuck. Okay. Thank God I'm not crazy. Although I am going crazy because these fucking monstrous ghouls are like, like attacking me in my dreams or something. And I'm seeing weird shit. Like, what the fuck do we do? And this was the part where I was like, Damon better like this movie. Essentially, Elise, Claire, Nick, who at first didn't believe her until she literally pulled something through the further, the four of them essentially plan a heist. It's a heist in the further, and but the goal is to trap this being that they believe is up to this, and these weird people that are walking around the streets are actually acolytes of this being known as Cyrus Lamb. And at some point, probably back in the 1970s, he seemed to be a like a cult leader, and he was
Yeah.
sure that he could find a way to live forever, right? And he was doing it through sedatives and stuff, like very cult leader stuff, where he's like, we can get in touch with another world and we can live forever. And I'm planning to do that. And he's now in the further. He spotted her and he's like, "Ooh, you have this little gift where I can get you to take me back to the real world. And we're going to take all these ghouls, all these weird things from the further, and we're going to put them in the real world and we're going to create hell on earth." And I was like, "Oh, cool. We have a ghoul that has a plan, that has a
Yeah.
reason, and he's just straight up evil. He's not a restless spirit or anything. He's just like, no, I've been planning this since I was alive, and my job is to bring hell to earth. So I'm going to use you to do that." And Damon, that's when the movie really turns for me, when it becomes kind of this heist and this plan to go into the further to chase him this way. They've got to protect Maya in that process. So Maya goes across the street to stay with the neighbor and all that stuff. And then the twist comes in. And this part, I was like, oh man, I really fucking love this. Damon, much like the four of them had a plan, Cyrus also had a plan.
Yeah, Cyrus. So Cyrus, obviously, his entire goal is to get out and bring his acolytes and his followers with him, and follow through on his promise in death, what he promised them in life. And so like, and the whole point of Jimmy, like they're trying to trap him behind the red door. He escaped when the and actually they do kind of tie it back to the other Insidious. They said when the Lambert family trapped their demon behind the red door and finally ended their like whole further adventure. Another door, like she says, when one door closes, another door opens. And when it happened, that's how Cyrus escaped. Um, so basically, Cyrus decides that he's going to get out of the he's going to get out of the further, but he can't. Like Jim is obviously not participating. She's not. He does it one time with the demon, and the demon dies like after it gets transferred over. So Cyrus decides, well, it's a hereditary thing, so I'm going to use Maya. And the cool thing, and also I love the concept of these acolytes, these three creepy old bastards. They have taken over the house next door or across the street. They killed the people who lived there, and now they're living there. And they get put under like a weird trance, like they basically put themselves under like what do you call it?
Anesthesia.
Anesthesia. Yeah, they put under anesthesia, but they're able to drift over into the further, and they basically act as Cyrus's guards to keep people away from the red door that could trap him, but they're actually living. Like they're real living people. They just know how to get to the further. So I love the entire planning. Like they're like, okay, here's what we got to do. And of course, obviously it always goes awry, but Nick is meant to go over and wake them up and pull them out of the further to pull them away from the door. And then Gemma and Elise are going to trap Cyrus behind the door. That's the whole plan. But Cyrus is like, nope, not going to work. And then he eventually gives up on Gemma and goes to Maya instead, and goes to neighbors, ends up killing the neighbor who is there to protect her. Well, not really protect her, just like the neighbor who's like watching Maya. And he kidnaps Maya, and he's like, Maya's going to be my conduit now. That's like, I guess, is that, am I getting it right, like, as far as like
Yeah, I think how Cyrus looks at it is like, oh, okay, it didn't go great when Gemma brought that guy over because she has enough power to like cause a problem and not
yeah.
cooperate. what I'll do is I'll let her come over here. My acolytes will go over there. I know someone's going to try and interrupt them, so I'm going to split them up so they're harder to find. And I'm going to use Joe. What's Joe's name in this movie? Lester. Lester is played by my buddy Joe. I'm going to use Lester as sort of my big distraction while they're trying to get rid of the other two acolytes. Lester is going to go grab her for me.
Yeah.
So they think they're chasing me. No, no, no. What they're doing is I'm creating a distraction over here while he gets Maya for me. Once I get Maya into the further, I'm going to use her as my channel to bring everybody over. And this sequence, when Cyrus does that, is so kind of insane. Like they do this great like table flip thing because he puts her on this table and then he's just using her as a portal and he's pulling through all the different ghouls and he's bringing them into their house. And you're just like, oh shit, this is fucked up. And Nick's over there running around trying to find Lester. He can't find him because they hid Lester in a very specific spot away from the other two acolytes, again just to create distraction. So Cyrus had like this master plan to basically just spread them so thin that he could kind of ramp up the process through Maya, who's just this little girl who doesn't even know what's going on. She doesn't have any idea, but he knew. He's like, oh yeah, it's hereditary. It comes from the mother who's trolling around here somewhere, the daughter, and now her daughter. So I'm going to use her daughter, and I just loved that. I love that because like they didn't see it coming. Gemma, Elise, Claire, they all got tricked up by it.
I loved it, but at the same time, I have to point out a plot device that confused the show. Not really confused me, just like why. So Cyrus figures out that it's passed along from mother to daughter when he tried to get it to the mother originally years ago, and the mother kills herself as opposed to allowing him to use her to transport people over to the further. Why didn't he just use Gemma back then in 1999? Because she had the gifts just like her mother.
Because her mother closed the door when she killed herself.
That's right. You're right. You're right.
Yes.
That's what it
So
was.
so
Okay, yeah.
so in that cold open, young Gemma thinks she's seeing her mom kill herself, and really what it is her mom is killing herself, but she's going, if I can kill myself, I close the door and he can't get
That's
through.
right.
Yeah,
That's
so
right. Okay.
that's her closing the door. Again, it's pretty airtight in terms
Yeah,
of
that's
plot.
right. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I forgot about that. You know, good point. Good. But that was my first. I was like, why didn't he just use Gemma back then? But you're right. You're absolutely right. I forgot about that. And by the way, when she's over in the further, she runs into her mom. Her mom's been trapped there ever since killing herself, so she's over there as well. And obviously, you know, she like realized like her mom wasn't crazy and she wasn't evil and she wasn't drugged out. She was basically, you know, stuck in the further, dealing with the same shit that Jim is dealing with now and trying to protect her daughter. So Cyrus has a really, really good plan and he gets people coming over, but eventually they do find Lester and they pull him out of the further and then, you know, the door's unblocked. And I don't want to get into like every single detail of the movie, but long story
sure.
short, they are able to battle back and get back over into the further, and they pull Maya away. They're able to get Maya away, you know, so she's not, you know, because like you're going to do this so many times and it's going to kill her, you know, but she's going to pull over as many people. And the demons are like just itching to just go out and destroy the world. Like they're going to ruin our world. And I'm trying to remember the exact moment, the device they use, but they basically get back over into the further and they're able to stop the demons from escaping.
Well,
And
they all the demons have gotten out.
yeah,
They're now out and they're in her house. And what I loved here was earlier in the movie, I was just really frustrated by the whole Gemma hoarder thing. But the theme of it was she can't let go. She can't let go. So I was like, well, how is that going to really tie around? Now, truth be told, the hoarding doesn't really tie around, but the home itself does, because in the logic of a Damon Martin, you go, just move the fuck out of this house. Nick even says it at one point. He goes,
yeah,
what about just leaving here? Maybe you don't wallow in the memories of your mom. And she's like, I'm not doing that. That's part of her dysfunction. And in this moment, it's now her strength. The one thing she couldn't let go of was his house. She could probably eventually get convinced to throw all the shit away, but she didn't want to let go of the house. So she grabs onto the doorknob of the house. And I'm like, what is she doing? And little Maya's on the outside going, Mom, let me in. Mom, let me in. And you think, oh, wow, she's going to sacrifice herself the way her mom did for her. How sad. No, she's not doing that at all. She goes, Maya, let go, because she that's something that she needed to tell, that her mom should have told her back then, was like, let go of me, let go of me. So now Gemma gets to tell her daughter, hey, let go. Maya backs off the door, backs away. Nick grabs her, which by the way, a cop can hold back a 9-year-old girl. That was so silly that he couldn't hold her back. I was like, please, you throw over your shoulder and it's over. But anyway, she backs up. Maya holds on to the doorknob and takes the entire house into the further. Because
Yeah.
she can take objects back and forth through the things. The house is chock full of ghouls. So now, without Cyrus understanding that she transported the whole goddamn house to the further, she opens the door wide and he's like, great, now it's party time. And like, basic Beetlejuice being transported to Earth and wreaking havoc. All the ghouls start running outside and they're like, the fuck, this isn't Earth. What? They're like, we're in the further, and they all turn on Cyrus because
Yeah.
he's not making good on their promises. All these ghouls have their own motivations and shit like that. He just wants to create hell on Earth. And they were like, you fucked us, Cyrus. So now we're gonna fuck you up. And they do. They basically rip him apart. And so the ghouls end up doing the most of the dirty work for Gemma. And then when that's all said and done, Elise during that time rehabilitated her mom, so they get their nice little goodbye, and then Gemma gets to come back to the real world where there's no more house. She now literally had to let go of the house to save her life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I like that because like they use they used the power in a way that like actually made sense. Like she can go back and forth between the further. The fact that she just transported her entire childhood home into the further. That was I think that might have been my favorite scene in the movie when all the ghouls open the door and they're like, "What the fuck?" Like, because it's all like the smoky, the darkness or
Yeah.
whatever, like the further, and they all like. This isn't fucking Earth, motherfucker. And they go back in, and Cyrus is like, no, 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 I promise we're gonna. And they just rip the shit out of him. And that's that. And I thought that was a really clever, inventive way of winning without it being like, some, I don't know, convoluted way of her defeating the demon. Like she actually used her
Right.
powers
It's
effectively.
thematically effective too because it was all about the fact that she couldn't let go of her home. She had to physically let go of it by carrying it all the way to this other place, but she never would have been able to do that if she didn't have the dysfunction of not being able to let go.
Yeah, but it worked out perfectly, and obviously, it was. And part of the whole, which I enjoyed this part too, is like she had to get back to her body because it's her spirit over there, and so like at the end, you think maybe Jim is dead, and then she gets back to her body, and she wakes up, and everyone's very happy. Her daughter's obviously saved, and it was a cool and inventive way of doing it. Like I said, they stopped the demon, they stopped the demons from coming on Earth. But they also didn't, just kill Gemma for the sake of killing Gemma. Like she made it back to her body, and she's able to raise her daughter now. But the house that haunted her for her entire life is gone because it's literally now in the further, which I thought was cool. And that's pretty much. I don't know. Did you stick around to see the post-credit scene?
I did, yes.
There's this one demon dentist in the further that like at one point he attacks Gemma, and you're like, oh god, here we go. It's gonna be like the demon version of the teeth thing again, and he has Cyrus trapped in a chair and he just starts drilling the fuck out of him with the demon drill. That's all it is. It's literally just him torturing Cyrus in the dentist chair, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. It just goes to show, like, Cyrus is now locked in a torturous world with all those ghouls having their way with him.
Yeah, but I thought it was pretty like. And by the way, this is now like I kind of forgot about the mother like closing that door, which you're right, that was absolutely true, and I kind of forgot about that. But outside of that, and now that that's answered, it really did. But like they didn't really leave any big plot holes,
No.
which was impressive. You know what I mean? When you're 6 films in or 5 films in, however many movies they've made of this, I was like, you know what? That's pretty impressive. Like you tied all the knots. You got all the answers, and I really enjoyed the way like the ending. Like the ending was really solid with her like transporting the entire house, defeating the demons, and she didn't have to fight Cyrus. Like she didn't have to battle Cyrus. The demons did the hard work for her, which was kind of the point.
That's kind of Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Dream Master, right? Like she has this big battle with Freddy, but ultimately all of the souls that he's consumed rip him apart. That's ultimately what they do. Like and it's very similar here, right? Like she has this ability that doesn't really beat Cyrus. She just has this ability that allows her to get a little bit of an advantage on him, and then the ghouls do the dirty work, and that makes sense. She doesn't just magically become a monster fighter.
Yeah, and Elise tells her like right at the end with her mother, she's like, "I'm gonna lead your mother out of here. Like she's gonna send her to heaven or whatever. You know, now that she's like
Yeah.
not a tortured soul anymore." And basically sitting there, basically trying to keep Cyrus away from her daughter. But I thought it was a really cool and inventive way, and like I knew that was gonna happen. I knew they were gonna bring back the mother so she could have a satisfying ending. Because like
Yeah.
when you meet her, from the moment you meet her at the beginning of the movie until she kills herself in that shower, she's just a fucking wackadoo. Like she's just
Yeah.
it's going to end badly. But the fact they did, they had that great mother daughter moment. You knew that was going to happen, but it was satisfying. Like it was satisfying. Like, and Elise is like, "Don't worry, I'll take care of your mom." Because Elise is dead. Like she's just dead. She's just in the further now. She's like, "I'll take care of your mom." They're able to have that kind of cool moment. They go back, and then she's with her daughter, and it was just like a well wrapped up story. Like it was just they took it and put a big bow on it and said, "There's your story." And I was like, "Yeah, you did a good job."
For a movie that felt kind of a little loose and all over the place in the beginning, it wraps itself up so cleanly. Every little thing mattered. I mean, I'm sure there's something I could pick apart, but the overall experience was really good. And that last 45 minutes of the whole planning of the heist, the execution of the heist, and the twist, and then the solution to it all was thematically relevant. I was like, wow, Jacob Chase really did his homework here. Like it
and
really, they made sure that everything lined up with everything else.
And I will say this: the main villain, the Cyrus Lamb, creepy. Or they have him he has a blindfold. When he died, he had a blindfold on, so he's still wearing the blindfold. He's creepy enough. The fucking acolytes creep me out way more than Cyrus did. Like the two old ladies and your boy. Like
Yeah,
they were way creepier than Cyrus was to me. Anyways, every time they
and
came
they
on
weren't
screen, it
even
was like,
dead.
yeah, like they just had like the creepy smile and like these. Oh, I was just like, ugh. Like these guys were way creepier than the fucking main villain, in my opinion.
That's what cultists are like. Sorry to all the cultists who listen, but you creep everybody out. Just so you guys know.
Yeah. Also, by the way, did you notice at the very end when all the demons are ripping apart Cyrus? You do see the lipstick face demon in there. He's in
Yeah,
there.
he's always got to pop up with his little demon lipstick face.
Yeah, but overall, I thought it was a real and I don't know. Listen, I have a feeling that when I saw my theater was pretty packed for 10:30 on a Friday on a Thursday night, I was like, I think this is going to do pretty decent, and all these
Yeah.
films have done decent. I was like, I wonder if they're going to try to make a sequel out of this one. I was kind of like, I hope, kind of hope they don't. Like, I kind of enjoy if they can come up with a good idea. The standalone stories, at least in this particular instance, work. Like like I said, I saw our friend Room for Scream Gigi was doing this review, and she's like, truthfully, you don't really need to see the other Insidious movies to enjoy this movie, but it helps because there's little Easter eggs, and they do make
Sure.
they
I
make
bet we
reference.
missed a ton of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and they made reference to the Lambert family. They show a flashback real quick of that. Like it's 2 seconds. It's not like part of the movie. Um, but yeah, I was like, if you can continue to make these standalone, almost like an anthology series, I think you could do that with these movies. I really do. And I know we're going to talk about sequel, remake, leave it alone later. I don't want to ruin that category, but like more of this. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to see Gemma and Maya and all this shit again. Like just rehashing the same story again because like that it was a cool new ability you introduced. You tied up a story in a very satisfying way. You made a pretty good movie. You made a fun movie. You made an enjoyable night of movies. A movie I would watch again, by the way. Like I can't really say
Yeah.
that, but I'd be all for more of that. Like you know what I mean? Because when we got to the Red Door, when we got to the last one, we were like, this is just like, oh my god, just
Yeah. That was
like
very
just,
forgettable.
yeah, very forgettable. The most memorable thing about that movie to me was the Patrick Wilson doing a song with Ghost as like the theme song for that movie.
That's
Like,
right.
him
Oh
singing.
God, I
Which, by the
remember
way,
that.
I have no idea Patrick Wilson can sing. Like he actually is a good singer, and I was like, this is actually pretty. I love Ghost. I don't know how you feel about Ghost, but I love Ghost.
I don't like Ghost.
Yeah, I love Ghost. I've seen
I
the
know they're
concert
very
several times.
popular.
No, I like them, but I was like, oh, and it's a Switchblade Sister song to do a cover. But I was like, oh, it's pretty good. That's the thing I remember most about that movie. Certainly not the actual movie itself.
That is the most memorable part of that movie. Also, shout out to his Conjuring co-star Vera Farmiga, who's a metalhead herself and has a metal band. So a
Yes.
lot of talent over there. The Warrens have a lot of talent.
Yeah, and also credit to Patrick Wilson who did the Lost Boys musical, which won a ton of awards, and
I
has been
gotta
doing very
see
well.
that damn thing. I need
I
to see the
know.
Lost Boys musical. I heard it's actually pretty good.
I heard it's really good. Like I heard it's really good, and the songs they do, and I want to see it. Like, and that's all spearheaded by Patrick Wilson.
That's crazy. I heard it's good. I also heard, and I can't even believe I'm saying this. I heard that the paranormal activity play is good as well. Because to me, I'm like, well, it's a play. It's not found footage. So what could that be like? And a guy that I know, stuff scared Chris. He reviewed it because he lives out there in New York, and he was like, you don't need to even like paranormal activity or know anything about it to enjoy the play. And I was like, that sounds right up my fucking alley because I'm not a fan of those movies either. But yeah, Damon, I listen, Insidious Beyond the Further, solid outing. Something I would watch again, or something I'd be like, yeah, maybe my kids could watch this. Maybe
Yeah.
they can watch. Yeah, it's entry level, a step up. By the way, my older son watched Hokum and loved it, and he's watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre now, and he also loved that. So he's really starting to graduate to this stuff. I might show him that, and he'd go, "Dad, this sucks. Why would you show me this?"
Yeah, but you know what? Like I said, I appreciate good entry level horror, and Insidious Out of the Further is perfectly that. Like that's what exactly what it is, and
Yeah,
I don't need it to be more than that.
not to be confused with gateway horror. Gateway horror is like literally made for kids. That's what I would call
Yeah,
gateway horror. Something where it's like it's not intense enough. Entry level is like this is officially scary, quote unquote, but it's not going to really excite hardcore horror fans, and then you start graduating up from there. But yeah, entry level, I think this is a great example of a great entry level horror film.
yeah, and like I said, it does a really good job of presenting, and I do appreciate like the originality and the scares. They did a really good job with that. And like I said, if you actually make like a really good self-contained story, like I said, if you can find a way to make a story, make it make sense, not leave a million plot holes and wrap a bow up at the end of the story, I'm pretty satisfied. And they did a really good job of that. And by the way, even if these are not our favorite movies, Patrick, and clearly they're not, like we're not huge Insidious fans, I'm glad these movies exist. Like I'm
Well,
really glad
sure.
these movies because like there's a lot of people I talk to and I'm like I've run a horror movie podcast for several years like I'm not a real big horror fan but I love Insidious. Perfect, don't care, that's cool.
Great.
Like
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. Like you know what I mean. Like probably don't need to watch fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre or probably don't need to watch some of those movies. You're probably not going to run out and see Martyrs or I don't know whatever. I'm trying to think other like French extremism. But, probably avoid
Yeah.
those.
I'm
But
not I'm
yeah,
not recommending Speak No Evil to everybody. The original, I have to constantly say Speak No Evil, the original. That not everyone can handle how that movie lands.
now. Patrick, I have to say, I'm a bit of a sadist. I have 100% suggested people watch that knowing they're gonna be so messed up by that ending because I loved when they could report back like, "What the fuck did you make me watch?"
I've gotten a few people, horror directors have gone, what the fuck did you show me that for? Jesus Christ. And go, you had to see it. It's an amazing movie. It really
I
is a
mean,
really good movie, but you have to have a strong constitution to get through the end of that movie. The end of that
I,
movie is so devastating.
if I have to live through it and have it in the back of my brain from now until death, you're going to do the same thing, buddy. Sorry. But yeah, I'm glad these movies exist. And like I said, even if they're not perfect and they're not, they're not going to terrify you and me, which, it takes a lot to do that. Because I had read a couple of reviews and they're like, oh man, I was jumping out, like horror people, like I was jumping out of my
Yeah.
seat. There were some really good scares. I was like, there was one, I don't want to say, someone said there's like one of the best jump scares ever in this movie. And I was like, all right, cool, I'm in.
Is that
And
Josh Levesque? I love Josh
I,
Levesque, by the way. He's a great guy. But he was telling me, he was saying how scary he thought this movie was. I was like,
yeah,
I don't see it as scary, but a
is
lot of
our,
people do.
it was our boy Slasher Talk, our boy Justin.
Oh
So
yeah,
one of the best.
Justin gets scared at stuff that I don't find scary. We
Yeah,
have those
but
conversations.
I was kind of waiting for it. I was like, "Where's this jump scare he was talking about?" Not, by the way, I'm not saying they're bad. They were good. Like it was a good movie.
Yeah, we
But I
have a
was like,
scare category.
where's this iconic scare that's like gonna be one of the best jump scares ever? I was like, I didn't. I was like, I just must be fucked up because like I just don't. I didn't like it was good, but I have like a grading scale of like good scares. Like when you literally make me tremble or make me like oh god, like clench up. You've done something really special. I just don't do that for most horror films. But I was like, where's this iconic jump scare? I didn't really find it.
Yeah, I don't know. The greatest jump scare of all time. Oh God, what's? Oh, you know what? It's for me because it gets me every fucking time. Is the blood test and the thing? It's just It's a straight up jump scare. You know it's coming. You've seen the movie fucking 500 times. There's something about the timing of it that is so goddamn good. That's to me, that's the all-time best jump scare because and it is just purely a jump scare. It's just there to fucking get you. But there are other things that I find far more disturbing and kind of sit with me in a different way. And Insidious is none of those things.
It's not. I don't know if you call it a jump scare, but I think the one that stands out in my mind, the moment in a movie that scared me the most, freaked me out the most, and it still stands to say. And I'm like, granted, it's the timing, it's the nostalgia, it's when it happened. I fully admit that, but fucking Mike in the corner in Blair Witch Project, fucking
Very
freaks me.
disturbing.
Just every single time with hearing Heather scream her brains off. You know, oh my gosh, she turns. And there's fucking Mike in that corner, dude. Like, and the funny thing is, like, you really had to pay attention to remember that from like when he talked about that early, like very early in the movie
Yeah.
about putting kids in the corner. I did, and like I said, I saw it in 1999 when it came. I was still a teenager. You know what I mean? Like I was
Yes.
very young. I remember watching that. It freaked me the fuck out. Like when I see, like I can picture it in my head, and I'm like, I still kind of like clench up a little bit because like, and nothing happens. By the way, you don't see him get his head chopped off or
No.
Mike.
You don't see what happens to her.
Yeah, Mike standing in that corner, not necessarily a jump scare, but that's probably the scariest I've ever been at any movie ever.
Very, very disturbing image.
And by the way, I follow Mike, who's obviously on Instagram now because they're doing the new Blair Witch they're doing right now. And he occasionally posts new photos of him in corners. And I'm like, dude, stop. Just stop. Don't do it anymore, man.
Listen, that was his thing. That's his thing that made him his bread and butter.
God, well, man, I wish they made more bread and butter based on what I've
Yeah,
heard.
they should have made more. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's a
but
topic
that's
for
that's
another
the
day.
and by the way, the thing is a very good one, but that I don't know, that's the one that's probably scared me the most of like any moment when you see him in that corner, I'm like, oh no, and yeah, so Patrick, let's get into some categories and let's kick things off as we do each and every week here on the show and let's talk about best performance. So when it comes to Insidious Out of the Further, who gets your best performance?
My best performance goes to Sam Spruell as Cyrus Lamb, the bad guy in this movie, the big bad. There was just something. By the way, great design. He had a great voice. He had kind of a great presence to him. I think it just made it sold me on like we have to beat this guy. The one of the biggest problems I have had with the Insidious franchise is I do not find the ghouls scary at all. I said it earlier in the podcast, kind of gives me haunted house vibes, like does nothing for me. At least, and he didn't scare me either. I wasn't like, oh, I'm scared of him. It was just like, oh yeah, I see a sinister bad guy and I understand what he's after. And I loved the approach and the way they built his world and all that stuff. I think it all just worked and he knew how to carry it.
Yeah, no, he did a good job, and like I said, and you know, he was talking a little bit more, so you had a little bit more interaction with him than maybe like the lipstick face demon who's just like, you know, out there just looking at you weird, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, if I ever saw the lipstick demon, I'd just punch him in the nose. I'd be like, dude, get out of my face. You creepy
yeah.
guy. Like, who are you? Get out of here. Like
What's
that does nothing for me.
What's the anthology? Is it Creep Show or is it I can't remember which one it is, the one with like the weird the little totem demon, you know what I'm talking about? The one that's like hunting a girl or hunting a guy. He's like got a mask on. He's like a little creepy thing. I can't remember what it's called, but that
Oh my
every time,
God. Is that the first creep show? I can't remember.
but you know what I'm talking about, right?
I do. I do. I just
Every
there's no way my brain's gonna remember that.
every time I see the lipstick face demon, that's what I think of, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't scary to me. Like it doesn't really do anything
I
for
find
me.
it
Yeah.
very corny.
Yeah. And funny enough, so I do want to give credit where credit's due. Amelia Eve as the lead as Gemma. She did a great job. I only knew her from she was in the Haunting of Bly Manor, the sequel that Mike
Okay.
Flanagan did. Good now, like and she did a great job by the way. I've not seen her in anything since then until now, and I really love Lynn Shay. She's great. Patrick, I'm giving it to your boy Joshua Lopez. That
Oh,
dude,
Joe Lopez.
oh Joe Lopez playing the creepy ass Lester. And it's all physical. Like I don't think he says a word in the entire movie. If I'm not mistaken.
He's got a line at the end like because he says something about protecting Maya or something like that.
Yeah, but like he is so creepy, and that dentist chair scene is so just off-putting. Like he does an incredible job, and I think physical acting needs to get more credit sometimes. And I think his physical acting in that, like I said, he to me was creepier than the fucking demon, the actual demon in the movie being Cyrus. So he gets my best performance. Really, that was always the plan. I had no idea you knew him, but like that was 100% my plan from the jump.
Yeah, I'm very biased because I used Joe in my short film Don't Do It, and Joe has no lines in that short. Everything he did was expressed through physicality, through his facial expressions, through his movement, through the choices that he made as an actor. And I gave him a lot of free reign to just do these things. I just kind of guided him and said, try, this is where your head's at, so try it. And he went out and did some amazing stuff. And I think it made the short film. The choices that he made in that moment really sold it to everybody. Everybody always tells me, man, that ending is so powerful. That's Joe Lopez. Joe's a solid actor. He's found acting later in life and he's Mr. Booked. Forget about it. Joe, with that look, he's got a very distinct look. That man is booked all year long. He's loving life right now. And he really shines in this movie. He really is creepy and weird. And he's sort of the leader of the three little acolytes. And he's the one that's kind of doing the big bidding and all that stuff. And I'm super happy to see where he's going.
That's very cool.
He was
I had no
also he
idea.
was the ghoul in Passenger too. I think if anyone
Oh,
listened, he was the passenger in Passenger earlier. I didn't really like that movie. That's not Joe's fault. That just wasn't that very good a
hey,
movie.
great trailer though. They did a great trailer.
Great trailer, and that's all Joe scaring the shit out of everybody. Joe's awesome.
Good job. Yeah, I had no idea when I did that as my best performance. I had zero idea you knew him, but that's pretty cool. And like I said, I thought he was creepy as shit. He did a great job. Patrick, next category. Let's talk about MVP. So when it comes to this movie, who gets your MVP for Insidious Out of the Further?
My MVP goes to director co-writer Jacob Chase, who really, Damon, as you said earlier, reinvigorated this franchise by just changing the entire trajectory and changing it to a different idea, but also holding dear what he loved about the franchise. That's the stuff I don't care about, but I bet the diehard fans are just like, oh my God, it still felt so much like an Insidious movie, but better. And I think like I've been hearing that review coming from a lot of people where they're just like, yeah, this is like better than most Insidious movies, but it's still very much an Insidious movie. And that's all to me, it's all in the way that Jacob built this thing.
Yeah, I mean, he did a really good job. And like I said, he paid homage without going overboard with like, I got to slurp up to the boss or anything and making it, I got to tie it back to, like I said, there's enough like tie backs to the other films where, like I said, if you catch them, you're like, oh, that's cool, or oh yeah, I remember that. But once again, he didn't do it to the point where you're just like, I didn't see this movie, so I'm lost. Like I have no idea what's going on here. He did a good job overall. Like I said, he made it his thing. He made it original, which to me is like a feat in and of itself when you're like 5 films into a franchise. Very impressive. For me, Patrick, my MVP goes to none other than the great, iconic Lynn Shay. And this is her franchise. We all know that. Like it started out, the Lambert family is the center. Patrick Wilson, all those people in the movie. But the reality is, Lynn Shay became the star because everyone loved her character of Elise. And even when they killed her, they found a way to bring her back. And I was watching a video by a TikTok influencer I follow by the name of Slashy Sledgehammer. I think is that what her name is. She's a big Nightmare on Elm Street fan. So I follow her because obviously I'm a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan. And she was talking about the Nightmare on Elm Street comics they made back in like the early 90s. And people were like, what's canon, what's not? And there was one series that was canon where they brought back characters from all the other Nightmare on Elm Streets together. They brought back Kristen from part 3. They brought back Alice from part 4 and 5. And they talked about Nancy Thompson, her death in part 3, and how like, people are still like, that's the one people are pissed off about because Nancy was such an iconic final girl and she beat Freddy in the first one. And they're like, it's just kind of, cheesy that she had to die in the third one. But in the comics, they had her come back. If you remember when she dies in the third one, Kristen's like, I'm going to dream you into a beautiful dream. I'm going to dream you in. And in the comics, they actually have a world called The Beautiful Dream where she's like the Freddy of a good way. She's like the Freddy
Sure.
of the Beautiful Dream, and Freddy is the master of the nightmare. And at some points, Nancy shows up to help save the day, to help save people from Freddy, to battle Freddy still in the dream world. And she's like, I love that. If you're going to kill Nancy, give her a better ending. And that was the ending they gave her in the comics. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I always like that. And that's kind of what they've done with Lynn Shay's character, with Elise. Like they killed her in the first one, which was very dramatic. You're like, oh shit, they killed Elise. but to have her now as like the conduit, the person who can traverse the further and help people when they go there. She's still the star. People still love her. You know what I mean? She's still an iconic character. And like I said, in this particular movie, she didn't. I mean, she's more of an information conduit. She doesn't like try to save the day. She's not out there doing fucking kung fu moves, battling fucking Cyrus or anything. But like, she helps explain what's going on. You know, she's like the what do you call it? The half man.
She's the half man.
She's the half man. She explains what's going on. She helps Gemma understand how to save her daughter, all these kind of little things. So she's still technically the star, even though she's not. Like, she's only in half this movie. And even then, she's not really in half the movie because half the time she's talking is when she's like talking through Claire or, you know, she's only in about, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes in the movie, I would guess. And that's most of the last 30 minutes. So, yeah, Lynn Shay, like, great way to continue to use her, find a creative way to use her. Kind of reminds me of the Nancy thing from Nightmare on Elm Street. So, yeah, she's still the star, even though she's probably like fifth on the call sheet.
Honestly, it's her franchise, and that's really cool. And I think, and she mentioned something recently. She's been doing the rounds for interviews, how at her age, you know, like Hollywood is not very kind to older women, and so it's like she thought she was going to be relegated to just doing grandma bit parts in movies and medication commercials and stuff like that. She is the legitimate face of this franchise, and for as long as she can do it, she gets to do it. And I saw her, show up at it was a premiere or something, and just everybody erupting and cheering, and she's going, "My God, I'm in my 80s, and here I am, like the star of this franchise, and people just excited to see me and are happy that I'm a part of something." That gives life to an actor that it's a really, really, really tough gig. It is the toughest gig to keep going and to keep alive and to keep like excitement for in your life and in your career. So the fact that she has this, I think it's something that's super cool.
Yeah, very cool. Patrick, next category, let's talk about best scare. There are some good scares in here, maybe not the greatest iconic scares of all time, but there's some good scares in here. So Patrick, what was your best scare in this movie?
My best scare was not really scary, right? Jump scary, not at all. But it's if you've seen the trailer, you know that she goes into this cushion labyrinth that seems impossibly big. This cushion fort she goes into, and it goes deep, and there's like, of course, scary things inside those cushions. Well, at one point while she's in those cushions, she tries to escape because some guy's got her cornered. She starts to squeeze her way through the cushions. And I love what Jacob Chase and his cinematographer did here. They put you in the perspective of her squeezing through the cushions, and it looks like there is zero breathing room. Like she is just with all the faith that she's going to find something on the other side. She squeezes through those cushions, and the camera work in there is so claustrophobic. You really do. It really just feels like the cushions are completely closed in around you, and there is zero breathing room. I loved that, and it really gave me sort of a more tense and like dreadful feeling than it ever did any sort of scare or jump scare or ghoul or gore or anything like that.
That whole scene was pretty solid. Like when she first goes in there, she flashes a light and you see like just a little peek of a head
Yeah.
sticking out. And it was like, just like enough. And you're like, oh, fuck, what is that? But yeah, going to the cushions, like I said, if you're claustrophobic, you're going to be having a panic attack watching that scene because it's very, very intense. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Patrick, for me, it's Lester in the dentist chair, the whole
Yeah.
scene. But when the second set of teeth bite Gemma,
Yes.
that just, I mean, it was just so good. And like, like, everything about it was creepy. She finds this weird hair hiding in his teeth, and then his molar cracks, and it's just like the ultimate like fuck the dentist scene you've ever seen. Like it's like I just never. But then when she's like seeing like she does an X-ray on his teeth, and she sees like he has like a weird second set of teeth, and she's trying to figure this out, and so she puts a bridge in his mouth to keep him from like biting down, and she sticks her finger in there. She's like digging around, and a second set of teeth show up and bites her anyways. Great jump scare. That was I was like, oh fuck, and it was just a really because like they did the precautionary part. She blocked the teeth so he couldn't bite her by accident, or at least that's what she's thinking as a
Sure.
dentist. But then when the second set of teeth just pop out and bite down, I was like, oh no! So it was a really good jump scare and definitely got me.
that bite down is such a great moment because it's one of those things. It's almost like getting a nail ripped off, which by the way also happens in this movie, or stepping on a nail on a on a stairs or something like that. It's one of those ones where you're just like, ew, like so. They do a great job here of making you just hate the idea of being a dental hygienist
Yeah, or being in the dentist chair for that matter, just in
or
general.
that.
So, yeah. Patrick, next category, best gore. So what do you got? I think you're going the same place I'm going here with best gore, but
It's
where are you going best gore?
Yeah, this movie's got a bunch of different little weird things to it, but man, the close-ups on these teeth that Jacob Chase decided to put forth were as disgusting as it gets. I mean, just he's really in there with the kind of gunk that I've never even seen on teeth before. I think they really had fun with that in this movie. So for all the scary stuff they had, it was just like, yeah, back up off these teeth, man. I don't want to see all this.
As bad as Lester, which they very much purposely made Lester have like, really gross teeth. The one that got me the most, where I was like ready to retch in the movie just because it was so nasty, was she's cleaning a kid with
Yes.
braces, and
Yes.
she starts digging out like crusty, nasty shit from the braces, and I'm like, oh God. And I think that got me because like that's real. Like that
I
actually, I'm sure that's what
know.
actually happened. I was just like, oh, because when you see Lester, you're like, yeah, he's gonna have some fucked up shit going on with these teeth. With the kid, she starts digging out like old food and shit. I'm like,
Oh, it's so disgusting. Look, my older kid had braces. I made him clean those braces every night with like brace cleaners and everything. The dentist has never had to deal with that from this house. It's not happening.
yeah.
I was like,
I'm
God, that's disgusting.
so nasty, so nasty. Patrick, next category: can we survive this horror film? Now, this is interesting because we assume neither one of us are going to have the power to go back and forth into further.
No, I think
Uh,
we should assume that, Damon.
you should assume that. Okay.
We should assume that we have the power to pull things back and forth through the further.
Okay, so that is the thing. So are we making it out alive?
Damon, I'm gonna give us a big old hell yeah. I think we've been preparing for these moments our entire lives. Both of us grew up on Nightmare on Elm Street and all these other kind of horror movies like Phantasm and Hellraiser and all this. Like we have been preparing to go to the outer worlds our whole lives. Now you're telling me that I can bring things in and out of the further? Hell yeah. This is basically like it's like a playground for guys like you and me.
That's true. Yeah, we are sick and twisted enough to where we'd be like, all right, come on. Like,
Yeah. Also, none of these ghouls scare me at all. The one with the shotgun does because she can actually do some proper damage. I'm like, hey, can you lower the weapon and we're gonna talk.
yeah, but and like I said, that's what makes this great like entry level horror because like they don't freak us out. But I know a lot of people who do get freaked out by these monsters. I've heard that before from other
Yeah.
horror fans. Like, oh yeah, that ghoul really freaks me out, or that one. So yeah, it doesn't really get us. That's why we survive because we're sick fucks. But the normal person, probably like, oh my god, that's disgusting.
Yeah, plenty of our friends who are very scared by these movies would probably have a lot of trouble in the further. I'd just be like, golly, like it smells in here. Like who the hell like
Like who farted? Come on, tell me right now.
who was it? Was it you, lipstick demon?
Yeah,
You look like
that's
you stink.
right after I punt him in the face. Uh, Patrick, next category: remake, sequel, or leave it alone. I'm going to go first because I kind of already answered this earlier, but
You did.
I think if you can continue to make these movies, kind of like I mentioned, I care what we talked about another movie recently about this, like almost like an anthology. Where you
Right.
make a new movie every time, take the same concept, but like kind of make it original and do something different. I'm all for it. And if Jacob Chase has another idea and say, you know what, we did Gemma and her daughter and all that kind of stuff. Now we're gonna do something. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not gonna pitch it for him, but like he can come up with another idea that's like in this same universe. And yeah, you can still tie it together with Elise and maybe bring back Claire or something like that. I'm all for it. Like I said, this is one of the best. I know you said it's the best. I don't really have a grade because I haven't seen them all, but like this is one of the best Insidious movies, and I actually like I said really enjoyed it. So yeah, if you can do it again, and I know it's not easy to create magic like that, but if you can do it again with a wholly original idea, I'd be into it.
I will say this. I'm going to say leave it alone because why not go out on top? Why
True.
not? If you're going to try this again, like, this is not my favorite franchise in the world. I've been disappointed by this franchise a couple of times. Well, probably actually every time except for this time. So, truth be told, is like you finally got one that I feel like everybody's going to agree was at least pretty good. I haven't heard anyone say it outright sucked because I don't think it does suck. Let's just quit while we're ahead. This is movie number 6 or something like that.
5 or 6, yeah, 5 or 6.
Yeah, we're up there. Like let's quit while we're ahead. Let's take 20 years off, and then if people really need to come back to this world, call up Jacob Chase, and he can executive produce a new version of it 20 some years later. But I think we leave on top, Damon.
Yeah, the actual category wasn't remake, sequel, or leave it alone. It was, does Insidious need to keep going? And like, if you're giving me a choice, like, no, I don't think that. When they did the Red Door, I was like, all right, I'm good. We can just stop now. Like, and then when I saw they were doing a new one, I was like, oh god, what's this going to be about? And like I said, they pulled it off. They pulled the magic trick and actually made it work. But if you're making me make a choice, does it need to keep going? No, it does not need to keep going. Like, I'm with you,
No.
but you and I know they are. Like, it's gonna happen unless this movie just absolutely completely bombs, which I don't think it will. They're gonna do another one sometime down the road. I'm telling you, if you're gonna force me to do another one or force me to watch another one, just do the original thing. I don't need another fuck. I don't need I don't need Patrick Wilson to return from the dead or wherever the fuck.
I don't need it to be Maya's story now. We got
Yeah.
Gemma's story. Now we're going into Maya. Like, no, I don't need that.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, do another original story. If you have a way back in, that's my only prerequisite. Find a way back in that's interesting because this was interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Patrick, last category, is it scary? So when it comes to Insidious Out of the Further, is it scary?
According to Slasher Talk, it is very scary. No, and fair enough. Like a lot of our horror friends have said, this is one of the scariest Insidious movies they've ever seen, and that just goes to show that these movies aren't scary at all. Because I love all of our horror creators and all that stuff, but it just goes to show when they're like, "Oh, I love the Insidious movies, but this one's actually scary." That should tell you something about how these movies roll out. But like just I'm not scared. Damon wasn't scared. We're not over here, squirming in our boots. But does it have all the elements of a scary movie? The audience that I was with certainly felt scared. Anytime they saw somebody in the background, they were like, "Oh, hell no, here we go." They were always ready to go. This is, I would say, a classic kind of dyed in the wool horror movie.
100% agree. Like I said, it didn't have me on the edge of my seat, pee in my pants or anything, but I thought they did a good job. If you're not uncomfortable watching that dentist scene, there's something wrong with you because that is an uncomfortable scene. I don't give a fuck who you are. Yeah, like I said, it was good. And like I said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with entry level horror, PG-13 horror, if you do it right. There's just so many bad ones out there that it's hard for me to suggest them. But if you're like, I need a PG-13 horror movie that's scary but not too gory, that's not gonna freak out my kid, he can't sleep at night, that kind of stuff. He's like 10 or 12 or whatever. These are good movies for that. Like, this is a good, and like I said, that's the experience I had, except my problem was I was actually watching Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th when I was fucking kid.
Yeah.
And those are like, hey, it's tits and blood and guts and, probably shouldn't have been doing that. Probably explains a lot about where I'm at in life now. But
You're doing all right.
But for like, if that was like, if someone's asking me, like someone's legitimately asking, like, what could I show my 13-year-old kid that would scare him but wouldn't traumatize him for life?
Right. No martyrs,
I'd be like,
please.
yeah, Insidious is kind of like, that's where I'd go.
Yeah, 100%. Great entry level stuff. This time around.
All right. This time, yeah, finally. Patrick, that is our episode for this week. Obviously, we've got a busy September coming up. I know we got a lot of movies coming up in that month, so we'll get into more of that. Obviously, as I mentioned, patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. If you want early access to this episode, we're recording it right now. I'll have it up on Patreon within about a half hour, 45 minutes, so go check that out. You want to listen to us on any of your favorite podcast platforms. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify. We are on YouTube, youtube.com. Just search Rewind of the Living Dead. You'll find us over there. And also our website, rewindofTheLivingDead.com. You got questions, comments, movies you'd like us to review, hit us up anytime on email, rotlivingdead@gmail.com. That's rotlivingdead@gmail.com. Or you can find us on social media. We are on Twitter/X. We are on Instagram. And we are on Facebook. Once again, just search Rewind of the Living Dead. You'll find us over there. And you can also find us on our own personal social media channels. I am at Damon Martin, and you are?
At Director Patrick.
And as always, I want to say a big thank you to everyone that tunes in the show. We'll be back next week with another edition of Rewind of the Living Dead. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you then.
Peace.